Akis, welcome to the Creative Gap podcast. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I just want to start off by saying congratulations on wrapping another season of The Chosen. I believe that was a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, thank you. We finished filming season 6 2 days ago. So Thursday was our last day, 86 out of 86.
86 days is crazy.
Yeah,
What is
there's a lot.
yeah, what is it? I'm just curious from a life standpoint because I think a lot of DPs and filmmakers they dream of doing a project of that scale and size, but may not think of what that actually means for their life. So, like, what is that? What is it? What does your life actually look like committing to a project like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. Your life actually just goes on pause
Mm,
entirely from your friends, your family, and your relationships you have. It just literally goes on pause. Um, because as we all know, being on set is extremely demanding. It's extremely long hours, uh, 12, 13, 14 hours. But then you also have to factor in that you also have prep time, which is also multiple weeks. In this case, it was like 12, 13 weeks of prep. And um, uh, the majority of filming for everybody happens away from where you usually live. You know, it's a blessing, and it's not very common for filming to be happening in your hometown
mm,
where you're based out of. So you spent, I mean, this year, for example, I spent 7 months away from home. Yeah, there were a couple of days here or there that I could come back and stay at home for like a day or two, but we're talking about a day or two or three, maybe in the span of 7 months. So yeah, I mean, I think not a lot of people think about that
yeah.
because it's one thing being able to be good at your job and showing up and, being prepared and, setting up the shots. Then it's another thing doing that for a very prolonged period of time and being able to maintain the level of work that you did day one to in day 86.
Yeah.
And how do you feel mentally, intellectually, emotionally, day 86 versus day one, right?
Yeah.
So you have to pace yourself. It's kind of like running a marathon, right?
Mm,
And yeah, you could be very good at the first 30 miles, but what happens next?
right.
Um, both in terms of like your performance, but how you treat the crew, how you work with the director, how you manage all the equipment, um, all your orders, because, in a big scale project like this, you're dealing with millions of dollars of equipment that you're in charge of on all the orders, what do you need, what you don't need, making sure production is happy and you're within your budget, that you could shoot efficiently and quickly, but also it looks good.
Yeah.
And The Chosen is quite unique in that um, I'm the only DP on it, and Dallas is the only director on it. Whereas the majority, if not all, almost all of the TV shows, they alternate DPs, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's so much work, and it's almost impossible for one person to do all of it. So you're filming one episode while the other DP is prepping the second episode, and then they alternate. Then one that next person is shooting the second one, the first DP is prepping the third one. But we shoot it like a movie. So we
Mm.
just shoot it all out of sequence, all just based on location, just like a movie.
Which I'm sure brings its
Um,
own complications to it inherently.
its own complications, both for actors and crew, because you have to be like, wait, now we're doing scene 305 from episode 3, and next one is scene 718 from 7th episode, and now this is 9, this one's day, and what happened before, what happened after. So it's just a lot that you have to
Wow.
keep track of.
Yeah. Oh man.
Um,
Yeah, I want to dig into that a little bit, but you said something that is it's honestly been really important for me as I've started to grow as a DP is just like my general health. And I'm curious as to when you're on a show for this long and doing 6 seasons, are there things that you do to help you maintain proper health, like diet, working out, fitness? Like, how do you maintain that sort of sharpness from day one to day 86?
yeah, that's a good question. Dallas and I are like very much into like health hacks and health tips, and like we have like a very specific like regimen. Dallas more so than me. He's a freak when it comes to those things, but it's very important. Like you can't let yourself go, because if you start feeling bad, then you're going to start performing bad.
Mm,
And if your body's not there, you can't really withstand 14 hours for 7 months at a time.
mm,
So I think that's very important. Um, what I do, I like to I work out every weekend, because during the week is very difficult to get time to do that. Now, if it's a really short day for some reason, we shoot 9-10 hours, I'll try to go to the gym and work out a little bit. But every weekend I definitely work out. I've had like problems with my back over the years, because I
mm.
used to operate a lot of
Yeah.
handhelds when I was first starting out, and that has given me like really bad back lately. So I've that's something I always try to protect and be conscious of, wearing the proper clothes and the proper like shoes depending on the terrain that we're at. Um, but besides that, it's just being conscious of what I consume. I eat like really good food,
Yeah.
and a lot of like smoothies, good smoothies, and like
Nice.
juices and stuff like that. And I don't eat a lot on set. I eat very like
Mm,
just a little bit of nimble, basically,
mm, mm.
just enough protein just to kind of get me going. But yeah, no drinking, hopefully during the week. I
Right.
have a couple of drinks during the weekends, but yeah,
Amazing. Yeah, I find that to
yeah,
be it's something that I've always kind of had a good workout regimen. I've always kind of eat pretty healthy. And the
yeah,
more that I've, been on set and travel across the country working with different crews, it seems like a common sort of thing is that people don't necessarily think too much about what they're consuming on set, whether it's a
exactly.
commercial for 10 hours or they're on like a feature. I hear people talk about them not feeling that great. They're
Yeah,
tight, their bodies are tight.
yeah,
And to me, that just is a recipe for a struggling career and sustainability. And
yeah. And it's, especially like this season, we had so much travel involved, because we did a big part of our filming in Italy.
oh, beautiful.
So,
Oh
and
man.
I went out there twice for scouting and then once for filming. So I went there like 3 times in a span of 2 months. So, and it's difficult, because whenever you travel internationally, it's so many hours, and a lot of people do get sick on the planes,
Mhm.
right? And like when you put your body through like jet lag and so much travel. So those are the very critical moments. I think for me, I tried to make sure like I don't get sick. So I'd get like extra vitamins, extra like shots of ginger, like, so I do all that stuff. I have an eye mask so I could sleep well at night when I
Nice.
travel internationally. Um, so I think those are very important things to keep track of. Dallas goes to the extremes, and he does like cold tanks literally every single
Oh,
day
nice.
and night, morning and night. I prefer the saunas because I like the heat. So I try to sneak in a sauna whenever I can, and
Mm,
I love tennis. I play tennis at least. I hope I try to do it once a week.
mm.
But yeah, so just staying active.
This episode is brought to you by Civa Collective. Civa is a new platform I've been building for creatives, filmmakers, and freelancers. It's about mindset, discipline, leadership, communication, and building a sustainable, healthy career, both on and off set. Inside, we'll cover everything from business and finances to health and wellness and nutrition, to leadership, to communication, to creative ownership, and much more. If you're somebody who wants to push your career forward, grow in community, and invest in yourself, now's the time to join the waitlist. Head over to chivacollective.com. That's chivacollective.com. Sign up and be the first to know when the doors open. Join the waitlist now, and I look forward to welcoming you to this community. Something else that I struggled with when I did my first feature, and it was nowhere near the amount of length of time, is that sort of come down feeling at the end of it. Because you're on such a high for so long and you're around, people that you are building close relationships with. Having done this for 6 seasons, you're working with the same people over the course of years and years, and you just wrapped
Yeah,
86 days. What does it feel like 2 days after now that you're just home?
I'm relieved.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always bittersweet.
Yeah.
It's always bittersweet because you've spent, as you said, so much time with the specific group of people that you know so well.
Yeah.
They've become your family for 7 months. So it's really sad to see them, go essentially, and you're not going to see them for many months or who knows when. I mean, thankfully we have another season coming up. So I know that I will see them soon in the next 6-7 months. But yeah, you kind of say goodbye, and everybody goes to their own lives, and they resume their lives, and then you kind of reunite a few months later. Um, it's but this season specifically, because it was our longest season to date, 86 days. The one before was 72. That was the longest, second longest. So this one involved so much travel across the United States, in Utah, Italy, and and Texas, back and forth in so many places. A lot of prep, difficult scenes. I was quite relieved to be wrapped.
Mm,
It was just a very, very, very long journey.
mm.
Um, yeah,
Wow. Yeah, from what I've seen from some of the behind the scenes, it does, and how last season left off, it does seem that this one is quite heavy, in a lot of different ways. I'm curious as to how that sort of affects everyone's state on set when you know that you have something
yeah.
serious coming up. How do you as a DP sort of prepare your crew for this, or how does just the set in general sort of prepare themselves for moments like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot, as you said. Yeah, this season is packed with emotional moments. Of course, the crucifixion,
Yeah.
scourging, bearing the cross, a lot of emotional scenes between the disciples and the women. So it's really packed with emotion. And the season just doesn't stop. Like, unlike some other seasons that are a little bit more slow paced, this one just moves like a train. And I think people are really gonna like that. Like, it's just even like dialogue scenes, there's like really quick, people just kind of talk like, it's kind of like an Aaron Sorkin type
Mm,
of like
sure.
screenplay. So it's just like back to back to back people jumping on top of each other. So it's a lot of that. But to answer your question, um, we, you know, Dallas always kind of makes an announcement at the beginning of the day if it's an emotional scene like that. It's like, hey guys, I mean, obviously I know and the key members know, but he wants to make it known to the rest 150 people on set that it's like, so you're aware this is a very important scene. It's very emotional. We really need to keep it quiet for them. We really need to be respectful of their space and where they're at emotionally. And the crew is very good at doing that.
Mm,
So, uh, um, uh, no cracking jokes,
yeah.
no loud voices, and I like to communicate with my crew with HME, so I we're all talking like in very low hushed voices, so we just keep it very, very quiet and very respectful for them. Um, and there were a lot of those scenes this season, so it was very heavy.
Mm. Throughout the course of shooting all 6 seasons, I know you shot Jesus Revolution. Have you been able to work on other projects in between each of these? Because I know that they've filmed pretty much back to back to back.
Yeah, I mean, season 1 through 4, there was a lot more time in
Mm,
between because we didn't go so back to back. After season 4, it became like really back to back. But yeah, I've had started my journey on the shows and starting in 2018. So it's been 7 years now. Um, so during that time, I've been able to do some pretty remarkable projects that I'm very proud of. One was the Use Revolution.
mhm,
Another one was I had the pleasure of working again with my good friend Faden Papa Michael. He directed a movie that he's always wanted to direct in Greece, and that happened during 2020 or 2021. It was during the pandemic or shortly after. So we shot that in Athens, and I DP'd it
nice.
for him, and he directed, and that was a really cool experience.
What was that like?
Um,
Because I guess working for a director that's quite a profound DP.
mhm. It's challenging because I mean, obviously he knows exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
Uh, um, he's not very big on prep, and he'll tell that to anybody. He
Mm,
likes discovering things on set, and it's I feel like I've worked with him on so many other projects from in different positions. When I was a gaffer in a small movie that he directed years and years ago. Another one I was an operator on. Another one I was a camera PA on when I was starting in 2007 or 8, whenever it was.
Yeah.
So I've seen him on set and hang out with him on set so much and he's been a big influence of me
Mm,
as a cinematographer. So I've always tried to kind of, I think consciously and subconsciously, like I've tried to imitate his style and his approach, and it's something that speaks to me also, creatively and aesthetically, that
mm,
I like.
yeah.
Um, so I think we're kind of very much on the same page about what looks good or what references we're going to use, or
Mm,
uh, um, but yeah, it was a very cool experience.
amazing. Yeah. The one thing that I loved about The Chosen and sort of just the journey of the show was, watching season one, you get a sense of the scale of the show, which at the time, it could look nice, big, but looking at season five, the growth is exponential. The sets have grown crazy. Just the scale and
Yeah,
scope of it is insane.
yeah,
And being on the show from that first moment to now, you just wrap season six. Obviously, there has been more money brought into the show, more people, more extras, more crew. And I think I looked at IMDb, there was like 100 plus camera and G&E people across the 6 seasons, which is an insane amount of people.
yeah.
But
We have a big
I'm
crew. Yeah.
curious. I'm curious about like what you noticed about the change in scale throughout the seasons. Were there like what are some positives that you notice within the growth? Like as it scales to be bigger, what are some positives? And were there anything that kind of made it feel a little bit negative? Were there some negatives to the scale and growth of it?
It's a good question. So obviously the positives are pretty easy to pinpoint.
Mhm.
You have a lot more crew. Like we did not have a rigging crew the first few seasons, and having a rigging crew the last couple of seasons has been extremely helpful. So we can pre-light in advance. We could do those bigger setups that I would want. Like this night, we did finish this night exterior. We had 2 weeks of night exteriors in different locations, and I think we had like a total of 11 condors and uh, uh, 3 telehandlers and just huge moon boxes and
Mhm.
just all this stuff, and moving it from place to place because we're in different location every night. So to do that, you do need to have a big infrastructure. You need to have a big team. Like there are like 6 generators and
Yeah.
multiple things like that. So the team has to go in and lay all the cable in advance, and then in the morning they have to move all these condors to the new location because you can't just show up and be like, all right, now let's put all these condors somewhere else. It's just never going to make your day.
Right.
Um, and those are scenes that we just couldn't have done season 1 or season 2 or even season 3. Just
Mm.
couldn't. So it's one thing you're having a couple characters in a field. Maybe you can get away with smaller stuff. But when you have literally 30 cast members and horses and stunts happening at night in the middle of the field, you need that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, um, and multiple cameras and technocranes. So you have like, hundreds of people showing up on set before and after
Mm.
call time. And the other great thing about having more money and more resources is we have more time, so we can afford to do some days 1 page of, or 5/8 of a page one day, or
Wow.
like page and a half, so we could, because those are difficult scenes. So let's spend time on it.
Mm.
Let's get
Mm.
exactly what we want. Um,
I'm so
of
used
course,
to
we still
shooting
have,
7 pages a day.
yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say, we still have days like we just finished last week. We had a day that was 6 pages.
Yeah.
Uh, um, because it was all dialogue and it was 3 people in a room, so you could do that,
Yeah.
and we still do that. But generally, it's given us a little bit more flexibility to do those things. We've been able to have more cameras, so instead of our usual just 2, sometimes we have a third camera,
Mm.
and we're like, okay, let's have a third camera and this or that. So that's really nice. We've been able to have more tools with lenses.
Yeah.
So more specialty lenses or more specialty items like image shakers and hydroflex. packages. So you just have the ability to just play more with tools like that. Uh,
Mm,
um, um, but the biggest thing is just having more crew, because you can always dream of doing the setups, but if you don't have the manpower to actually execute them, then you're not going to make your day.
right.
Uh, um, it's not just a matter of like having the equipment, right? You got to have the equipment and the crew
For sure.
to
Absolutely.
be able to do that. Because in some productions, it's like, here's all the equipment. It's like, well, but I don't have the guys to
Yeah.
move this equipment. What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
You know? So we got to have the time, the crew, and the equipment. So you got to have all three
Hmm.
to do that. And we've been blessed to have those all three the last couple of seasons.
Mm,
So, and I think it shows. And from and that translates across all departments. It's not just my department, right? So the same applies to costumes. Now they have two additional costumers, and they have more money, which means they can layer more clothes and they can source better fabrics. So it looks more realistic and it looks better. And they have more people on set who can actually come in between takes and dirty them up and apply like more sweat on their clothes that we didn't have the time or the people or the brain power for people to
hmm.
go do those little things, right? So when you exponentially add those little things across all departments, it just grows.
Hmm. The details
Um,
become way more
yeah,
prominent. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
The set dressing, how big the sets are. Like we couldn't really build sets that were this big in the prior seasons. Now you have Pilot's set and Caiaphas' set and
Mm,
the Holy of Holies, and these are like massive, massive sets that are worth like $500,000 or more dollars. These are just big sets, 16, 17 feet tall sets. So it looks impressive on camera
mhm.
because now I could put back in the corner and put the 28 mil in anamorphic and capture the whole thing. Uh, um, it's not a 12-foot set, you know.
Right.
So those little things just make a big difference, though.
Mm,
Same thing with VFX. We were not really able to have much visual effects the first few seasons. It was very limited. Now we have a much bigger budget, so therefore it's like, okay, let's erase these buildings and put this there, and it just grows. You could do a lot more things,
yeah. When
but
you
having things, it brings more
Yeah.
responsibility.
Mm,
It and there's a lot more pressure, right?
mm,
Because now, yeah, season one's like, if you look at it by itself, season one, season two, season three, like by themselves, they look good. But then everybody is expecting you to deliver much more since you have much more.
mm,
Um, so it has to look better. They're like, well, we spend more money, so it has to look much better, right? And we spend even more money season six than season five, so it has to look even better than the last season.
mm.
So there's
How do
that
you
pressure that you
do you
deliver.
find yourselves sort of like fighting the balance of, okay, we have all this money to spend on things. Let's get all the tools, but how do you make it feel like you're not degrading, you're not what am I trying to say? You're not like impeding on the story too much, because sometimes when you have all the money, like if I do a commercial and I have more money than I'm used to, I'm like, okay, let's get all the things. And I know the commercial's different than a narrative, but how do you find that balance of asking for everything versus like what you truly need for it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, it really just boils down to the scene, right? And
Mm,
and for me, it always comes down to like what's happening here emotionally this moment in the scene. So, um, and what tools do I need to get that point across? Um, within the world of the show that we have created.
mm,
Um, so, are we doing a cool shot just to do a cool shot, or does it actually say something,
right.
right? So that's where it really comes down to.
Mm. And if you don't
Like
mind me
what does it say?
if I could interrupt there, I think
Yeah.
because you have so many years, of experience, and I think, from where I am, I'm about 6 years into my career. I still sometimes struggle with, is this truly a cool shot just for a cool shot, or does this actually say something? Like, how do you learn to decipher
Yeah.
this cool shot is actually making a difference and is telling the story versus, it's just cool? I don't know if that's the right
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just takes time, and it just takes like, I think just years of just shooting stuff and then watching your stuff. I think it's
Mm,
important to watch your stuff even a year later, 2 years later, revisit stuff that you've done and be like, oh, like, because then you can, uh, um,
yeah,
it's
it's a
tough
good point.
sometimes to think of that in the moment. But if you, like, I see a lot of stuff in color correction a year later when I'm coloring, and I'm like, oh, why do we do that? Then you have to like constantly have a critical eye over your work, even when, um, not just during filming. Obviously, during filming, you're just criticizing everything you're doing. You're like, is this too bright? Is this too hard? Do I need to soften it? Should I put dolly or should I do this on steady camera? You're always like, no, I shouldn't do that. You're always like thinking and analyzing, criticizing. But you need to have that same critical eye when you see it finished.
Mm,
And be like, where did I mess up? How does that feel now?
mm,
And kind of try to remember the conversations you're having in your head 7, 8 months earlier.
mm,
Um, but and also just I think just constantly watching stuff from people that I respect and I like, and it's
right,
like, oh, how do they do something similar? And
mm,
the problem is that, and that's a bad kind of path to go down. Because a lot of times we watch movies from people that we respect and we admire. We're like, oh, they did this shot, therefore I'm gonna do this type of thing.
I see.
But that doesn't always apply because each scene is different, right?
Mm,
Its emotional beat in its movie is going to be different than what you're doing.
mm,
So even though they did this cool shot and this lighting setup, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for your scene.
right.
Because the chances that the emotional content of that scene to match
Translates.
exactly the
Yeah.
emotional, it's very unlikely.
Mm.
Um,
Do you use movies as a lot of references? Because I know some DPs that that shy away from movies or like
yeah.
stills or frames because they feel like it's going to kind of interpret a sort of copiness from them, or they're going to copy what they see. Do you shy away from that stuff, or do
No, I
you?
watch I watch a lot of movies and I put a lot of frames. I love that stuff because I think it's great as a source of inspiration for me
Right.
at least. And it's great to kind of like get my brain going. Um, but it kind of stops there. I try to change it up or elevate it or do something different, put my own spin on it, but at
Hmm.
least it kind of gets me going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. When this might be a funny question, but sometimes when I walk on set, especially if it's a day that I know is like, okay, this is a day of growth for me. This is a big one for me.
Yeah.
I'm maybe touching a new level here. I'm trying something
Yeah.
new. And when I walk
Yeah.
on set, sometimes I like pause and I'm like, how did I even get here? Like I'm just like, this is amazing. Do you still get moments where you walk on set, you have 6 condors, you have 100 extras, and you're like, how the heck did I even get here? Like this is
600 extras.
600.
um, had multiple days with 600s. That was crazy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. There are moments like that where, especially when you see how much it's touched people, that's kind of
Mm,
what really, to me, makes a difference. Because I've worked on a lot of projects where we've had like tons of stuff. Uh, um, but it's just not about again about the tools. It's like what happens afterwards. What do we do with this?
mm,
And I was finishing color correction last year in February for season 5, and I was driving back home, and I was just so tired. I had been in the color suite for 11 hours, in the dark room. And I was just driving by. I was in Hollywood Boulevard, and I was driving by the W, and I look up, and it's like the billboard of The Chosen over the entire hotel, and it's like, wow, like those are the things that I was dreaming of when I was starting off, of like having a show, having a movie
mm.
be presented that way. And it's like moments like that is kind of like makes it all worth it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is being seen by people. This makes a difference.
Mm,
Because the beginning of my career, I probably shot 20, 25 movies when I was first starting up that were all like movies that nobody ever saw,
yeah.
They were like small indies. And it was like, like I, I'm probably paying my dues right now. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm putting so much effort, so much time, and so much of my heart into these projects, and nobody's ever going to see them or hear of them. And it's just not a great feeling for an
Mm,
artist, I think.
mm,
Your work is meant to be seen.
right.
Um, Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Sure.
Hopefully, as an artist, you have something to say, you have something to express through your images, through your cinematography, and you want it to touch people.
Mm,
Um, so that's why it's been so great, with the Chosen. It's just something that's been seen by a lot of people, and I think it transcends religion. It
mm,
transcends like your people's beliefs in this or that. Uh, um, and I really hope even more people get to see it who are not Christian or not religious. I don't think you have to be religious to watch the show. You're going to
mm-mm.
discover a lot of things and a lot of lessons uh, um, throughout the show.
Mm. As biblical as it is, and as much as it portrays Jesus as this religious faith figure, it is such a human-based story, and I think
Yes.
that's really what attracted me to it. Because as I started, like, sort of on my journey in Christianity, it was hard for me to, like, pinpoint these figures in the Bible as human beings, because you just read them
Mm-hmm.
on a page, and it's hard to put a face to them. But
Mm.
when I watched The Chosen, it was like I'm watching these stories that I read, and I'm putting a human face to it, and it really just I don't know. There's something really magical about the show that really humanized this whole thing that you read in the Bible, and it's truly, the writing is insane. The
Yes.
acting, uh,
Yes.
everything is just a fantastic. It's an unbelievable show. It really is.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was one of the main things that Dallas wanted to make sure we achieved with the show from the very beginning. And that was one of the first things that he told me. It was like, we want to make this figure, Jesus, that everybody knows, but everybody has heard of, but nobody really
Yeah.
knows, as human as possible. And all the disciples and all the people who will come into his life as real and as human as possible. Because everybody knows the story, right? We all know the story. Most of the viewers have read the Bible, probably, or a lot of the viewers have read the Bible. So it's a story that everybody knows in very good detail. But why are people flocking to the movie theaters, and why are people watching it again and again, and they're going crazy over the show? It's because they've never seen these characters that they know so well presented in this way.
Mm,
They've never seen them so human and so real. That they jump out of the Bible. They become like human. They're like, oh, I can relate now to this person. I can
that's
relate
exactly
to
what
him.
it
It's like,
was. Yeah.
um, and I've been with Dallas in like many social settings. Like we might be at the airport together, or we might be at a restaurant together, and there are people just coming up to him and they start crying. People that he's never met before, and it's just that emotional reaction that people have towards the show, that they see the Bible in a way, in a new light, right, in a new way.
Mm, yeah.
Uh,
Mm. Did you know what this was gonna become when you joined? Did you know you were gonna when you joined season 1, did you think that you were gonna be on for 6 seasons?
no way. I had no idea it was going to be. I mean, I knew. I mean, I don't think anybody knew, right? Because um, the first two seasons were all crowdfunded.
Right.
Uh, so um, their resources were pretty limited, and we were at the mercy, essentially, of whoever was going to donate. So if people did not donate enough money, there would be no show.
Mm,
Um, and we knew that getting into season 4, especially season 3, you need a lot more money to make this happen.
mm,
But also from a crew standpoint, like it was tough to keep the crew and to keep the same actors if there was not another kind of motive to keep them. People were going to get other jobs, other
right.
opportunities that might have presented themselves. It's like, sorry, like I can't take this job now. It's just not paying me enough. I have this really good opportunity. I got to go do that. And that would have happened across the crew, across the cast. So there would be no show. So it was either growing or not going to happen.
Mhm. Mm. What made you join the show knowing that it was this crowd-funded project and the uncertainty behind the future of it? What about your initial meeting was like, "Yes, I this is something I wanna be a part of?"
I was recommended to Dallas by a director that I had worked for before, John Gunn, who I really respect. And uh and and funny enough, there was another actor that I had worked with who also recommended me to Dallas because he was looking for a
Mm,
cinematographer. And at first, when I heard about it, I just wasn't too thrilled. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. I was up for a couple other projects that seemed a little bit more in line with what I wanted to do at the time. And but I still, of course, was like, I'll take the meeting, I'll read the scripts, and go from there. So I read the first 4 scripts because that's kind of what I was sent, and I was just blown away. I just thought the writing was just like so good. It just flowed very nicely. Just like it did not seem preachy, which what I was afraid of.
right.
It just didn't feel like anything I had read like before. Um, it's like, oh, this is really well written. Like this flows really well, uh, um, and then I met Dallas, and that kind of like sealed the deal for me because he was not who I expected to show up, and he was really cool, and he was very pleasant and very positive, and he said, I just want you to have control of the visuals. I want you to be in charge of that. I give you like freedom to, to work how you want to work and explore the themes that
Sounds
you
like a
want to
dream.
explore as an artist. And, I want us to have a good relationship, a collaborative relationship. And, you do your thing and, I want to focus on the actors and you
Mm,
create the world around it. And this is kind of how I want it to feel.
mm,
Um, so giving me that space and the creative freedom to do what I want to do, and even to this day, is like, yeah, you can come up with the shots. There are a few things that I want to make sure I get, and there's some shots that I have in mind, but for the most part, you just go figure out all the shots that you want to get and how you want to shoot it.
mm.
And if I want to change something, we'll talk about it. But 90% of the time, it's like, however,
Right.
I kind
Yeah,
of want to.
that trust is huge right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So, and I could tell that he was going to trust me from the very beginning. So it's like, oh yeah, this is a really good relationship. Because a lot of the times, you get on projects and you're just not happy with the
Mm,
relationship you have with the director, right? You feel like you're not being given the freedom to shine the way that you could shine or really show off your qualities. Feel like your hands are tied,
mm,
right? And that's not a very good feeling.
mm.
Um, so I've never felt like that with Dallas, and it's just been a very fruitful experience. Uh, um, so yeah,
Amazing. When you get to the scale of where you're at season 5, season 6, you know, the most crew that I've worked with was probably a 5 and 5 on G&E and maybe 3 people on camera at this point in
yeah,
my career, and, the sort of managerial side of that, the leadership and communication at the scale that I was working at with the 5 is, you know, much different than I'm assuming it would be when you have 100 people or however many you have. What do you think changes in your role as a DP, as a manager or leader, when you have that many people and you have these big, huge setups and this sort of responsibility that is quite significant compared to say like a 3-and-3 team?
yeah. Honestly, it's the same. I mean,
Mm,
it is the same because um, I will interact with my key grip, and I will interact with my gaffer, and I'm going to interact with my operator, my first AC, and my dimmer board op. So those are the 5 key people that I'm talking to constantly. So if you're working on a smaller show, you're probably not going to have the dimmer board op, and you might not have an operator. Um, so um, you kind of have to take those 2 people out of the equation. But besides that, you're still going to talk to your gaffer the same way. You're still going to talk to your key grip the same way. I think just knowing, you can request more things because you're like, okay, well, I can ask for a couple more things because there's a bigger
mm,
team.
mm,
So being aware of like also size of crew, time constraints, what time it is, like where you're in the day, how significant it is. Do I need to ask for another 12 by 12 or can I do it with like a floppy?
right.
You know, uh, um, is the crew like really tired? Are we finishing up? Do they need to wrap? Just kind of being aware of those little things.
Mm,
Uh, um, and could I ask for another tour by? I could, but do I need to right now? I kind of need to get going, like we're a little
mm,
bit behind. So just kind of being aware of those things. Um, and the people that I work with are amazing, both the key group and the gaffer. They're just spectacular, and they're very easygoing, and they always want to give me what I want, and they're very collaborative.
mm.
So they don't have egos of like, oh, you only talk to me and you can't talk to any of the other guys. So the key group sometimes is like, all right, I'm gonna go take care of this over there, so I can explain to them exactly what needs to be built. You can talk if you want to Mike here about
Mm,
anything else. So then I'm telling Mike, hey Mike, let's put a 12 by here, and while I know my key group is dealing with a bigger issue
right.
over there.
Mm,
Um, Same thing with the gaffer. He's an older guy who has so much experience, and he hates wearing the HME, so he's always like following me around wherever I go on set just to hear like if we need to change something. And then I'm talking through the HME to the dimmer port up, where we're like always making micro adjustments even during the filming.
mm,
If we start filming, it's like, oh, this looks a little too bright, bring it down 5 points. So you go bring
mm,
it down 5 points. Um, or when we build cues, and the camera is moving, it's like, okay, you're going to start at 80% of these, you're going to go down to 40% when he goes by the window, and
right.
then you're going to turn this on. And we had a lot of that actually this season because when he gets crucified, it gets dark, right? So the light goes away, the sun goes away, and it's kind of like it goes in a dimmer, and from day becomes almost night.
Mm,
Um, and the show cuts to various scenes in various places, and you see that light effect happening. So it's Pilot's house suddenly from daytime becomes nighttime. But where the disciples are happening, from daytime becomes nighttime. Exterior scenes, it becomes
mm,
from day to night. So there were a lot of challenges in how do you achieve that. The interiors were relatively straightforward, right?
yeah.
But the exteriors was kind of pretty difficult.
Do you mind sharing a little bit of how you were able to accomplish that?
Yeah, we did a number of different things, depending on the situation. It was some of it was as kind of rudimentary and simple as picking a location where we had a 20 by 80 solid on pulleys that would on cue, the grips would just kind of start pulling it, and at the same time we would have a couple 18Ks lighting the scene.
Mm,
One was bounced, one was direct, another one was in the background, so it'd be like 2 or 3 18Ks that all on cue would pan away, dim down, and slowly pan away. Um, and we would have to find, we'd be filming in a spot that I had scouted before that there would be no direct sunlight, right?
mm,
So that you can create the direct sunlight with your 18Ks. Um, so then you pull the solid, all the ambience is completely gone. Imagine if you're 2 p.m., right? It's tons of ambience. All that ambience is now gone.
mm,
And the 18Ks are also gone. Um, and would have a few grips running in with floppies and 12 by solids at the same time,
right.
just to limit the ambience also from the ground. And also stopping down at the same time on camera. Like you'll be like at
Mm,
three stop iris
mm.
pull.
How much
Um,
responsibility of that is put directly on you, and how much do you kind of delegate to other key members or other departments to be able to accomplish this thing in total?
for like the lighting setups
For like
or
bigger lighting setups, for things that are quite grand and extreme, like is all of that responsibility really put on you, or like how do you delegate that?
I come up with the lighting designs for scenes like that in advance, so something I'll do over the weekend.
Mm,
Uh, and uh, and then I kind of pass off the information to the gaffer and the key grip. But yeah, all the big like setups, because we have some huge setups in stage interiors. We're talking about like 20 Ks and over 100 we had over 100 sky panels rigged for a set. Um, uh, and 100 feet of truss, hundreds and hundreds. So all that I kind of do in pre-production, where I draw it out and I think, okay, if I'm looking this direction, what would I need?
Mm,
So I kind of do, like if I'm looking this direction, what would I need here? And then I get very specific plans, overhead plans, and blueprint plans from production design. And a lot of those sets, if they've not been built, they have 3D images rendered. So I can actually travel through the space
mm,
and see exactly what it would look like. And I can even visualize if I put my lens there, what am I going to see if I'm under the 28?
mm,
So I usually just start like, if I'm lighting wide this way, what would I need,
right.
right? Because from there, you're going to go down. So what's
Mm.
the most that I would need?
What does your conversation with your gaffer look like at that sort of at that place? Like you're looking at the space, you're asking yourself what you need, and you write down what you think or what you
Yeah.
perceive you think you need. Then what does that conversation look like with the gaffer to who might have another alternative option or maybe a better
Yeah.
solution?
So I write down all the thoughts. I write down like in this massive, like imagine like an architectural
Hmm.
plan. So it's like this huge thing that we roll out, and I've written down all the lights that I think we're going to need in every direction, and then we sit down and we have a meeting about it with both the gaffer and the key grip, and we go over the entire plan. Can we do this? What do you guys think? Is there something that will not work, or is it something better? And that's kind of where the dialogue starts, right?
Hmm.
But I always present something in full detail for what I think I want it to look like and
Right.
how I think we should achieve it. And from there it evolves, right?
Mm,
Um, yeah.
mm.
But we use translights a lot starting season 5.
Oh, really?
That was a new thing that we hadn't done it in prior seasons.
Mm,
And they're super helpful. They look great if
yeah.
if you light them properly, but they're so hard to work with.
Mm.
So that
You
was a
still
big
use
thing. It
tungsten?
requires a lot more light.
I
Yeah.
think I read something or heard something that you love to use tungsten on this show.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for all the stage stuff, we use tungsten,
Mm,
20Ks and 10Ks and 5Ks. But even for nighttime exteriors, I use all tungsten. So I'll use zips, 4K
mm,
zips and 2K zips and 750s. Um, I use 20s,
yeah.
5Ks, 10Ks, and 20Ks. Those are the tungsten units that we use. And from there, it's just, sky panels and Asteras and
Mm,
just the usual stuff.
mm.
Phylexes, Q8s, Q10s. Yeah.
For a show that's 86 days, how much expectation, or I guess, what is the expectation you put on your gaffer and key grip in particular? How much do you expect them to sort of have a certain level of passion and care for the show that you're asking them to come
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with the same guys for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Actually, with the gaffer, we've worked together since season 1.
on? Mm,
And with the key grip, we've worked together since season 3. And they're both amazing and um, extremely passionate. And they want to make sure I'm happy. And they're always going to, above and beyond. And we have a lot of time in pre-production where we go through the schedule day by day. And so they're aware exactly of what needs to be done. Just like, all right, this week for this scene, we're going to need a condor there, there, and there. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's what we have here. Making sure we're all on the same pace. And the next day, these 2 condors are going to move over to that location. Great, yeah, yeah. So they write everything down
mm,
and they create a schedule, their own schedule with all these moves and all the needs per scene. Then they pass all that info to their best boys. They pass all that info to their reading team. So we've developed a system, and it's like pretty, it works pretty well. Um, and I mean, they're great. Without them, there's just no way I
sure.
could do any of this.
Mm,
Because yeah, I can come up with some of the ideas and how we're going to do this and how we're going to shoot and how we're going to light it. But if this guy's done pass down the notes, if they don't actually execute this stuff, if if
yes.
if it's not done correctly, there's nothing.
Mm, mm. Was there a particular moment that you could recall filming this last season where you might have faced a challenge and it didn't go as you planned?
Not really.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Um, I think we have a pretty well-oiled machine at this point,
mm,
and I know how much we can achieve per day, setups-wise, work-wise. And I do all the shot listing the weekend before. Um, and I work with Adam, our first AD, in like organizing scenes and making sure we're on the same page about stuff and how much we're gonna shoot every day. And in pre-production, we spend a ton of time, the two of us, working on the schedule, like a ton of time. And
yeah,
Dallas completely trusts both of us, just kind of putting all that together. And this season, he was super happy. He's like, you guys actually did a great job on the schedule, and it was
that's
very well
awesome.
kind of spread out. Um, so it was just a lot of work, but I think it was spread out very well, and we had enough time to get the stuff that we need to get done.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, not really surprised by anything. It was just I knew that it was going to be a really difficult season.
yeah.
Um, because every day there was just something different. Like
Mm,
we were in the desert for 2 days. That was really difficult. It was supposed to be sunny and it was raining.
mm,
Um, that was very unexpected. That was
mm,
unexpected.
mm. Do you
And we had
have
to
sort of
change.
contingency plans for certain things when you're creating the schedule or with your crew? If something happens, we have
Yeah,
this as a backup.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's always a plan B of like, we had to do that, for example, in the desert where it was
Right.
raining. I had like 35 centers that I really wanted us to get and all these kind of elaborate shots. But then it started raining and you lost 3 hours and they're willing to let you go over, but it doesn't matter. The sun's going to go down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your day is going to be over at some point when the sun goes down, especially with the exterior. So then you really just kind of, I take time. I sit down with Dallas. I go by myself over through the shot list again. I sit in the car by myself while training outside. I'm like, okay, this 35 shots was just not going to happen now.
Mm,
So what are the what is the essential to tell the story, right? You really, again, boil it down to the story. I don't need to have this 360 shot anymore. I'm just going to shoot it this way. You start like trimming stuff, right? Uh, uh, um, to the essentials.
right.
That's really kind of what it comes down to.
Mm,
Um, and you still want to look good. So you need to give yourself time to simplify some stuff, but so you have the time to at least make it look good. Right?
mm.
Um,
How do you,
and just one other thing about that
yeah.
scene that I remembered, we had a bird in that scene, a raven that was, you know, hopefully it's going to land here and hopefully it's going to fly this way.
Yeah.
And of course it didn't do it, even though it was a trained bird.
Still a
So
bird.
then you have, yeah, it just wasn't doing it. And then he just flew away and the Wrangler spent 30 minutes trying to track him down. So we just didn't have him for a lot of the shots that we needed him. Um, so then like, all right, where's the visual effects guy? Let's talk about it. Uh, um, then you come up with another plan. It's like, okay, we're going to need to get this bird on the blue screen and shoot it a
Mm,
million ways so you can put in, is that going to work? Like, we didn't want it sitting there. You kind of needed to sit on that rock for the frame. Can we change that? Do we need to shoot an element? So you're always kind of figuring stuff out on the fly, right?
right.
Even if you're well prepared, things are going to happen that they were out of control. Both the weather, animals. Uh, um, we had in Italy. Now that you ask the question, I keep thinking about all the things that did.
Yeah.
Of course, they happened. We were filming up on the side of a mountain, and we had a technocrane because there were 3 people on the crosses, and we had to get all their coverage on the crosses, talking to each other. And we had a 50-foot techno, and of course that day it just stopped working. It just wouldn't telescope, which is kind of what you needed to do. And we're like, well, so forget all the push-ins. We can't do the push-ins anymore. They're faces that we wanted to do. But we have to shoot the scene today. We don't have any of the other casts for the other scenes. We can change the schedule last minute. So then you kind of improvise. It's like,
Mm,
okay, let's bring our ladder pods and put sliders on the ladder pods and do something like
Right.
that. You know, it's
Right.
not going to be exactly what we envisioned,
Mm.
but it's a version of that.
Mm. Do you feel
And you
like
just have to be open.
over time you've kept a sort of positive mentality in those moments where maybe in the, early parts of your career you might have gotten maybe more frustrated or let that bother you or something you wanted didn't happen? Are you better at dealing with those situations now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just okay. It's happened. You know, let's just move on. You know,
Mm.
because the important thing that I guess I've learned is like shit like that is always going to happen. Like there's always going to be shit that happens, right? This piece of equipment that you wanted to use malfunctioned. This that you wanted to do it just doesn't work anymore, or now it's overcast and you have to change your plan.
Mm.
You're always going to have to change your plan. The important thing to remember is that um, all that stuff is out of your control. So you getting upset or frustrated is just not really going to help the situation. Of course, you are more than justified to feel that way, but it's not going to improve the situation.
Mm.
And also, even more importantly, nobody in the audience, when they watch the movie, are going to know that you wanted to do that and you couldn't in that moment,
Right.
right? So they're not going to know that you wanted to use a technocrane there and you couldn't. But what they will see is what you actually ended up putting on the screen.
Hmm.
So at that point, it's like, well, let me make the best possible thing that I can here because this is what's going to end up on the screen and nobody's going to know.
Hmm.
And you might end up being better than what
Right.
you thought it would be.
Mm. How do you think that you have grown or changed since season one throughout the show? What are some things that you've noticed about yourself that has evolved?
I think what we were talking about earlier, the urge and the need to like having your work to stand out via cool shots. Like, I think my work has gotten a lot more grounded and even more naturalistic and focused a lot more on story. I've definitely grown in terms of the managerial skills,
Mm.
being able to manage a much bigger team, being able to communicate more efficiently and effectively with the bigger team.
Mm.
Um, um, and um, being able to orchestrate and organize this much bigger setups because I hadn't done I had done like here and there some bigger, like we're doing this movie, 23-day movie. And one of those days is a really big setup, right? And one of those 23 days, you're always fearing that one day that's going to come and it's like this huge, huge, huge setup. Um, and now it's become like every day we have huge setups, like
Right.
literally
Becomes
every day.
normal.
Yeah, it just
Mm.
becomes normal. So uh, um, and I've just been able to be involved with a lot of like difficult scenes, right? Like multiple scenes involving 20, 30 cast members. How do you do coverage and how do you keep it interesting a little bit so it's not all just like overs, close-ups, close-ups.
Mm.
Um, so I think night exteriors in the middle of fields, walking on water scenes in tanks, underwater scenes, scenes involving animals and horses running at full speed, and how do you cover that? Um, so it's just been a great experience being able to do all that.
Yeah.
So I think I've grown as an artist a lot, as a filmmaker, as uh, uh, um, and but also as a person. I think the show has made me hopefully a better person,
Mm.
just because of its content.
Right. Mm. Did
Yeah.
you, uh, were you Christian before starting the show? Are you Christian?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I've definitely been more involved since the show started because I
Hmm.
wasn't really practicing or going to church, but I think it has definitely affected me more in that way.
Mm.
Uh, yeah.
Amazing. One of the last questions I want to ask is, I guess, as you get to bigger shows with more notable actors and people of like a higher, I guess, caliber, what is your relationship like with the actors? Like, how do you work on your communication skills with them? How do you talk to them? That doesn't impede on like what the director wants, but sort of what does that relationship look like?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Uh, I tried to be very gentle with all the actors because I know that they're very much in their headspace and emotionally and in their character moment. So you wanna be very aware of when's a good time to go talk to them about the technical stuff, and
Mm,
usually that time is during the rehearsal. I try not to distract them or give them too much to think about in between takes.
mm,
If something didn't go well technically, then you have to kind of let them know. But generally, I talk to them about all the technical stuff when we do a blocking rehearsal, when we do a camera rehearsal. Um, uh, I'm very much into eye lines, making sure the eye lines are tight into the lens. So we want to make sure, especially as the camera is moving steady cam, the actor from behind camera is moving with the camera
mm,
so that we can preserve the eye line. So those can get a little challenging, especially when you have tons of people and other extras and equipment around. Uh, um, but it's important for the performance to be able to look at them. Um, so, and then, so I talked to them a lot about eye lines, talked to them a lot about their marks, of course, letting them know what size of lens we're on so they
mm,
can, uh, letting them know that we have 2 or 3 cameras going where the cameras are at, pointing them out to them so they know it's like, okay, that one's a profile on you. This one's going to be straight on, so wider. This one's tighter. Because seasoned actors, they know
right,
what that means.
right.
It's like, okay, so I should throw some looks this way since there's a camera, so that way I can't ignore that camera.
Mm,
But this is the main shot, so I'm going to play it more here, especially if you're addressing a crowd, right? Um, and we have a lot of those scenes of people addressing crowds.
yeah.
Um, and um, and of course, I talk to them a lot about the lighting. Sometimes like two people talking like next to each other, and they're shadowing each other. It's like,
Mm,
oh, I can't see anything. Like, all right, like you guys don't need to be so physically close. I have an 85. Like you could just be a few more inches further back. I could still see you. Like
mm,
it still plays intimate. Don't worry. Like you have to understand why they're doing that. They want it to be intimate. So you kind of have to explain to them like it still plays intimate. It's a very long lens. You guys look very close to each other, but be a little bit further back because I can't see your faces. You're so close, you can't
mhm.
see your face.
Yeah.
So, here's your light where it's coming from. And I usually like show them, I kind of take their spot. I'm like, you see, like, if I'm here, you look at this guy's face. Now you can't see him. If I'm here, look at how bright now he is. Like you kind of want to explain to
Mm,
them what it is so they're aware physicality and
right.
the physicality of it.
Mm.
Um,
It's almost like you're giving them, you're not limiting them, you're giving them the freedom to just understand the space that they're in for them to move within that sort of world. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then that's something that I try not to uh, um I try not to limit them. I think that's super important. So I don't like having a ton of equipment on the floor when they're especially depending on the scene, right? If they're sitting at a table and that's all they're going to be doing, talking to each other at a table, that's fine. You can put a light here, you can have a flag here. But you have to be aware of what they're doing. If they're moving through space, you don't want them to have to fight through flags,
Yeah.
through sandbags, through this to be able to get to where they're going to, right?
Mm,
Um, and uh, um, or similarly, if you're doing a close up, you don't want to crowd them having a floppy like 2 inches away from their face. Like this is distracting. The same way it would be distracting if the boom is just moving all over your head as you're trying to focus on the other person, right?
mm,
Um, So you just have to give them space physically, so it's not overwhelming, and they can perform. And also, you don't want them to be too specific with marks,
mm.
right? Of course, you want them to be like, you're going to be in this area because we've lit this way. You don't want it to be 6 feet, 7 feet away, but you can't be like, oh, your toes are not touching this mark, therefore the shot is not good. You know, you have to give them space to and freedom to to,
Right.
to move around.
Mm,
So that's why I like lighting a little bit more broadly. I like to say like I'm lighting for spaces, not faces.
mhm.
And if the space looks good, they're gonna look good too, and it's gonna look more naturalistic when when you just have the light just boom directly hit it at the actor. It just tends to look a little bit manufactured to me. Um, So, and that gives them more freedom, and I think it just looks more naturalistic and organic. And
Yeah.
you go to a space that light rarely is hitting. You're sitting on the couch watching TV. The light's probably not going to be hitting you directly in the face. I mean, sometimes it will, but more often than not, it's gonna be bouncing off the floor. It's gonna be
Hmm.
filling in the space, and you're gonna be catching some of that bounce.
Mm.
Uh, um, but there's a fine line of having the actor pop in the frame that way versus looking messy or
Right.
not looking. So it requires bigger finesse, I
Yeah.
think.
Mm.
Yeah.
Last question I have is where do you find that you're experiencing the most joy in your life right now within work, personal? Where do you find the most joy in your life?
I like the balance. I love being on set because it's just so rewarding and so creative. But then I also love being able to get away at times, and you cook and play tennis, and so it's just a balance, right? Of work is great, but uh, um it's just so long and so many hours that you don't want to get burnt out,
Yeah.
and you want to find those little pockets of time where you can recharge your batteries and be creative and find a moment of inspiration, whether it is you go to a museum or you watch a movie or uh, um, go through a photography book or whatever, and you get inspired by something. So you kind of have those little balancing act between all of those things.
Amazing. Well, Akis,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Where so for people that might not be familiar with The Chosen, where can people watch it?
You can check out The Chosen on Amazon Prime. It's become an Amazon show as the last couple of seasons. So you can find all the seasons on Prime.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Peace out.